Hi friends, I'm Chelsea Grayson coming to you once again from the Office of the CEO. This is my show where I can help you be more successful in your current career, and I can also help you successfully transition to a new career. Today I'm going to be giving you my top 5 tips for successfully multitasking. So what many people don't know is that the term multitasking was originated in the context of computers. It was used to describe computers performing multiple tasks at the same time. It wasn't devised originally for human beings, which is why it can come unnaturally to many of us. When it's used in the human context, it describes the ability to juggle 2 or more different activities at the same time. And most professionals say that multitasking has unfortunately become essential in this fast-driven world that we live and work in. And when employers say that you need to have multitasking skills in a job description, what they really mean is that they need someone who can handle multiple priorities within the available time that they have allotted. So just a pro tip, when you're out there interviewing, make sure to include that sort of jargon as well as the jargon of multitasking on your resume. So let's get started. Let me give you my top 5 tips. So for one, absolutely make a to-do list before you start engaging in multitasking. So divide the to-do list into each of the multiple projects that you'll be working on within this allotted time period. And then under each project, put both the deadline, which you're also going to put in a reminder on your calendar, but also put each of the mini tasks or each of the steps to complete that project under that particular project so that you don't get waylaid and miss a step in any particular project. And you'll also want to put under each project when little cues for you to communicate with your boss or your manager or whoever is supervising this particular project, whoever you owe the results to. You're going to want to put reminders to communicate with them periodically and just let them know, here, I'm updating you on the status of this project. This is my ETA, or this is where I am, just to touch base so that they know that you're continuing to work on their project and haven't gotten waylaid by a different project. And then as new information might come in on a particular project, because as we all know, time doesn't stop when we're working on these things. New information is coming in. If you're a lawyer, new cases might come down the pike. New parts of the assignment might come in from your manager who decides that they need additional things in it, other than just the original tasks they need completed on that particular project. So as those things come in, take a quick look at whatever that new information or data is, just to make sure that the overall path of the project hasn't changed, so the overall intended result of the project hasn't changed. And also to make sure that your ultimate conclusion on the project or your ultimate perspective or application of the project hasn't changed either. So that you're still sort of overall doing the same project and you're coming out with the same conclusion or finished work product. Just do a quick glance at the new information, but then just put a cue on your to-do list to return back to that new information so that you make sure and not forget to do that. So don't get bogged down by new information. Be sure to just fundamentally continue on the same course of your project and then put it on your to-do list to remind yourself to go back to that new data or new information or new set of directions when you finish the main portion of your project. So that's the to-do list. So tip number 2, bundle similar tasks. So if you're working on a social media campaign, different social media campaigns for a variety of different clients, and you think that there's going to be some overlapping elements that'll apply, you can feel free to go ahead and bundle those. If you're working on a case in a particular area, if you're a lawyer, for example, you can bundle the various cases or the various deals to the extent that you think certain precedent might similarly apply across the board, so that you don't, finish something and then move on to a different project and have to reach back and look at that research or look at that external data. But make sure that if you are bundling similar tasks, and this applies to the next tip that I'll give you momentarily, make sure to always go back and review each of the finished work product to make sure of one very specific thing. Make sure that you have switched out the client names, switched out the project names, switched out the particular facts that are assigned to that specific project, because if you're using the same precedent or the same template for a bunch of different projects and you forget to switch out the particulars of that project, so A, your boss is going to know right away what you were doing and it doesn't look like you've checked your work carefully. B, if it, God forbid, gets through to the client itself, they're going to see protected information potentially about a different client. And also they'll see that you're multitasking and that maybe you aren't worth everything they agreed to pay for this project because you're able to apply this particular knowledge to lots of different projects across the board. And C, they're just not going to feel very paid attention to in a very personal way because they'll see that you're doing the same sorts of things for other clients and that theirs isn't particularly unique. So if you're bundling similar projects, which I do suggest you do when you're multitasking, again, always make sure to go back and make sure that you have used the specific information for that project in your finished product. So tip number 3, and I had given you a little preview a short while ago, is use your breaks. So you'll obviously want to take breaks and you'll want to have a little bit of downtime. But if you're multitasking, you obviously have a lot of time crunch and a lot of deadlines coming up. So I wouldn't take a real break. What I would do is I would use your breaks or your downtime to review each of your work product at whatever stage it's at for each project. Because during those break times, you have sort of a fresh eye, you have maybe a fresh perspective, you're sort of more relaxed, and you'll be able to fine tune your work product at whatever stage it's at. You'll pick up typos, you'll pick up grammatical errors, you'll pick up those sorts of things that I referred to in the previous tip where maybe you've accidentally left the other client's name in this work product and so you need to switch out the client name or a client particular. Those are the sorts of things that take fresh eyes and relaxed eyes, maybe over a cup of coffee in the break room, to really catch. So use your downtime, use your break time, which I absolutely encourage you to take, to review and look at things with a fresh eye. So number 4, and this is hard for a lot of people, it certainly used to be very hard for me and I had to hone this particular art very carefully. Delegate when you can. So if there are menial tasks on a particularly substantive project that you're working on, non-substantive, if there are things that you feel like somebody more junior can handle and you're allowed to delegate to them, go ahead and delegate, because while you've delegated that particular piece and they're off working on that, you can be working on the main substantive content, or you can be doing that fresh eye review that we just referred to. And then if you're confident in that person, you know that after a quick review, you can just drop that chunk of information into your work product and go from there. Again, it's very hard for a lot of us to give up that level of control. But if you start to do it on the more non-substantive components to a particular work product, then trust me, over time, you will get more comfortable at assigning more substantive content to junior people. Again, as long as you find that over time you can trust them and that they generate good work product. So, and number 5 is know when you can multitask and know the things that you cannot multitask on. If you're approaching a particular issue for the first time, if you're working for somebody for the very first time, if it's a particularly voluminous project and it has a deadline that is ahead of all of your other projects, if it's something that really requires you to focus for long periods of time, then that might be something that you choose not to multitask. And again, you can just make a to-do list on the side of the bundle of things that you will be multitasking in the future so that you're not stressed out about forgetting about that stuff. But maybe you ought to focus on this one task and this one task alone for the next period of time and not multitask this thing. So again, those are my top 5 tips for effectively multitasking, or, said another way, handling multiple priorities within a particular available time that's been assigned to you. And I hope you've enjoyed this. Please go ahead and drop me a comment. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if there's any additional topics that you'd like me to cover in future episodes. And I will see you in the future from the Office of the CEO.